What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to Wildly Informed Playoff Edition. Brett Marshall, Isha Jerome back with you for another episode. Coming to you in pretty good spirits tonight. Series tied 1-1 as we come back to St. Paul with the Wild getting a big win in Game 2 after playing what I thought was a pretty hard-fought Game 1. So much like we said, they were not a team that we were worried about being outmatched with, and I think a lot of this has played out kind of exactly how we previewed it would. We'll talk through kind of our reactions to the first two games, some news, some notes, some analytics, all that stuff. But before we do that, got to check in with Isha, see how he's doing tonight. How's it going?
Oh, man. After this, I am going to brush my teeth and go to bed because I'm tired. I can't believe last night I was like, all right, okay, I'm gonna grab some dinner now after the Wild game. Like, I looked at the clock and then looked at it again and I was like, 1 o'clock. It's like, what the hell? So grabbed a quick snack and then man, it's been a long day. But you said it, good spirits. What a game! What a roller coaster of emotions. I know we'll dive into that a little bit more later on in the show, but that was the most textbook Minnesota Wild playoff game for the fans there. At least it kept us on the edge of our seats. It kept the dopamine going till the end. It wasn't just a blowout. I felt like if the Wild would have racked up 6-0 in the second, and then Vegas actually just gave up and it became a boring game, everyone probably would have just conceded and went to bed. But no, we were we were waiting for an onslaught. It seemed like for most of the game there. So fun stuff overall. We got some goals from everybody, and it was good.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to get to with that, and we'll spend probably the good majority of the show on Wild related news. But as we always do, we'll start off with the hockey headlines. Again, so trigger warning here for sexual assault as the Hockey Canada trial began today. If you're looking for more in-depth updates, we've said his name a bunch, but Rick Westhead,
he's the best.
Twitter, covering it very in-depth, has lots of tweets out, some highlights about it from today. All 5 players pleaded not guilty today. The jury has been announced, 14 people, 11 women, 3 men on that jury. And then kind of the other NHL piece of this is it was mentioned that several other members of the team could be called upon as witnesses throughout the trial. This is expected to kind of go on over the next couple months, according to Rick. So it sounds like initially they were unsure as if the players would have to be in person for it. It sounds like they may be working to make accommodations for those witnesses to be virtual, but maybe something minor to monitor there, seeing if any of those players are called upon, and it affects playoffs, those kinds of things. And then the only the other big thing from today, the trial was suspended for an issue that arose, sounds like over lunch, between the 2 sets of lawyers. They couldn't divulge any more into it, I guess, for legal reasons. But those are kind of the highlights from today. But, looking forward just to kind of seeing how this plays out and hopefully some justice being brought.
Yeah, it's projected to be a long trial as well. And I'm interested to see who testifies or who is called even into questioning. It's going to be a long one. Last summer when kind of everything... more news about it actually broke and it set everything up, the trial dates and everything were announced. Like you said, Rick Westhead does a great job covering it. And I went over it a lot on the Sota pod, actually with Seth Topol of Locked on Wild. So I can even share the episode link in the description here as we kind of outlined everything that we knew at the time. And there wasn't much more that has come out since. As this plays out, we'll continue to keep you guys updated because I obviously have an interest in it. Being the Hockey Canada guy here, and hopefully justice will be served because it's just too much, and it feels like this is one of the bigger stories, but this is far from the only one in recent history and still ongoing. I feel like some in lower levels and junior leagues, high school even, it pops up left, right, and center. So yeah, hopefully justice is served, and we'll keep you guys updated on this story as it continues.
Yeah, and we'll try not to get into too deep because I know it could be, a touchy subject for some people and a sensitive topic. So we'll do our best just to kind of give the really high level. And like we said, if you want more in depth, we'll provide kind of some accounts and those things you can go check out if you want to learn about it more. But definitely something important that we want to continue to spotlight and talk about here. So moving on from that, some NHL news. One of the bigger pieces of news that's happened today, the New York Islanders have fired Lou Lamoriello as the GM, and I believe he was also the president of hockey ops. Feels a little bit long overdue at this point. Pretty old like I think pretty well respected for as long as a career as he's had, but did things a little bit old fashioned, and the Islanders have just seemingly kind of hit this wall of how many 30-plus-year-old players can we sign, and that formula shockingly has not worked for them. Not having Barzell was a big for a good chunk of the year affected things as well, you would think, but Capitals just iced the game with an empty netter with 0.7 seconds left. So they win 3-1. Logan Thompson was amazing, by the way.
Nice.
Like 4 phenomenal saves in the last 5 minutes as I've had it on.
Wow. Let's go.
The other interesting piece of this whole Islanders thing is that there was also a report that the radio broadcast team has been let go, and that it sounds like they will not be planning to replace them, and that they will just go forward without a radio broadcast, which is absolute insanity.
Man, the hot take here, but are the Islanders now the new Coyotes as far as the punching bag of the league? Because it just seems like they just can't ever get their shit together, and it's they've been able to hide behind Arizona the last couple years, and with Utah coming in and everything, but it seems like the Islanders are always one step forward, 2 step back, as long as I can remember, and probably you too, as we were growing up, and it was all right, they draft DiPietro, and it's just yay.
Yeah,
clown show ever since.
I don't know if they're there yet, but it feels like they're definitely trending in that direction. They're definitely not a team that's trending upward. I mentioned Barzell, but beyond that, what do they have?
They'll have good years, and then they'll just be a bunch of random shit that goes on where they can't get their renovations together, so they're on the road for 25 games, or Lou Lamoriello's still not letting guys grow up mustaches. It's just bro, what? And I know these are little things, but like I said, who else right now is that in the league?
Yeah. So it sounds like there's a plan for the complete search, so no interim person or anything. They're going to conduct a full search. Couple other firings. Dan Bilesma fired as the head coach of the Kraken.
That one is surprising.
It's a little interesting. I didn't what
it's you don't even give him any rope off. I don't think anyone thought that the Kraken were going to be that great this year, anyways. But it's just poor Dan, man. Worked his way back up for his final hoorah. It's first team.
Yeah, he's been given kind of
yeah. Okay, sorry, Saber. How could I forget? Saber's definitely more than the Islanders, but
honestly, all the New York teams now, the Rangers are kind of a mess.
Yeah,
right
the
now.
Rangers still winning. There may be still be drama every year. Don't get me wrong, and some more serious stuff that we talked about.
I expect them to maybe bounce back, but it's all 3 of those right now are kind of a punching bag.
Just freaking New York scumbags, dude. All 3, just and the Rangers in MSG fashion, just a little bit more, polished, but
right. And then the other firings, speaking of the Rangers, Peter Laviolette and Phil Housley fired from their coaching staff.
And Laviolette will be picked up by somebody and have another 2-3 year run. He's one of the Tortorellas in the league, right? He'll have a system in play. The room will buy in, and then the wheels will fall off a couple years in. I feel like he does it with every single team. And every team, Capitals played well for a bit under him. Philly played well, a little bit under him, right?
Yep.
Same with Torts, man. Everywhere except for Vancouver. That's the only one terrible time with Tortorella. I mean, the Sedins were on the freaking penalty kill, and their points went from 90 to 40 that year, then back up to 80. So I mean, proofs in the pudding, but yeah.
Yeah, and with both Bilesma and Laviolette, no interim named, full search expected for both of those as well. So, like you said, I think Bilesma is a surprising one. Laviolette felt a little bit overdue, given what the Rangers' expectations were coming into this season, having gone as far as it did last year, and then just crashing back down to earth this year, and regression from a lot of their players. It seems like there's a pretty big rift right now between the fans and Mika Zibanejad, who had a really, really bad year. But on the flip side of things, so they fired their coach. Chris Drury, I believe, was also given a multi-year extension. I think that news came out this evening as well. So just kind of interesting thing, going out with the Rangers. So kind of be interesting to see how the new GM comes in. I'm sure he'll have, not the new GM, but how Drury conducts this search and tries to bring the Rangers back Or do we get another letter about how they're going to be rebuilding again? Who knows?
And then like make the playoffs the year after.
Yeah. This news was came out in the last couple of hours. TNT announcing that they'll have remote broadcast teams for I think the next 2 games of the LA and Edmonton series, as well as the Toronto and Ottawa series. So the games in Edmonton and Ottawa, basically citing it's going to be like it's too expensive to get trucks out there and all this stuff. And mind you, this is a network that's broadcasting the Stanley Cup final. Just kind of a joke.
It's too expensive to get. It's just like, shut up, man. This is
and
that's crazy.
TNT obviously not in a good spot. They lost their NBA contract. I think that
that's right. That's right.
I think like the fans for the most part, like we enjoy like the intermission panel, but I think the broadcast itself is a little lackluster, and not that ESPN is doing a whole lot better, but at least their coverage is a little more extensive. But yeah, it is kind of a bummer. Like you have one of your premier broadcast partners like in the playoffs, 2 really big, Canadian market teams with, if LA, Edmonton, Toronto, Ottawa.
It's a joke, and it sounds like shit. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I watch, and I'm saying like again, like I'm gonna draw just from like, and I do this every week, but the other sport that I'm watching like as religiously, which is combat sport, and there's a league that I love, but for the longest time, the English commentary was wasn't in arena. It was via Zoom or whatever broadcast they were, whatever streaming service they were using. And it just sucked. And as soon as they were able to get back in the arena, ringside, the show was 1,000 times better. And it was just like, duh. Like there's just something more human about it, right?
Yeah, and I think I want to say LaPanta actually talked about this a little bit. I want to say it was maybe on a Russo podcast a long time ago, kind of during COVID, about just the difference of being in the building versus not being able to kind of like do little things like, hey, this player is missing from the bench, or like being able to feed off the fans and the atmosphere, and having being so high up, being able to see plays develop. Like, it's they're still going to be doing an okay job, but I think like just to your point, like there's some more authenticity feels like it's brought when it's coming from inside the rink versus the Atlanta studio, which is where this is going to be broadcast, where these games are going to be broadcasted from. So
yeah,
kind of a bummer there.
I shouldn't rip on it too much because I literally do that from this YouTube channel, but like it's different here. Like this is
I mean, yours is more like
vibe.
It's community, it's streaming, like it's commentary. You're not commentating though. Like
yeah. Although sometimes people are stop reading chat. I'm driving home. I'm like okay.
Yeah. So.
But no, it's Bush League, given that this is one of the big 4 leagues and this is the freaking Stanley Cup Finals. Yeah. Right. Like this is the greatest tournament in sports, and it's you're doing it not in the arena from afar. It's crazy,
right?
It's crazy.
It was mentioned in chat here. I believe Beta was the one who posted it, but we also had on our list Gabriel Landeskog returning to the Avalanche's lineup tonight. This is the first time since June 26, 2022. That is 1,032 days.
How crazy is that?
Since he last played, so almost basically 3 years, just under 3 years since he last played. So pretty remarkable. As a devout Mikko Koivu fan, Gabriel Landeskog is probably like one of my least favorite players in the NHL just because of the beef that those two had. But obviously, like it's kind of like it's a guy I wish I had on my team, kind of like hatred and just being an Avalanche player. So like really cool story to have him come back, and we'll see what kind of impact he makes, how much ice time he gets, but. Like you have to think for the fans, and then just as the players, having your captain back on the bench, like pretty cool. And that he stuck it out for nearly 3 years to come back. Like that's easily could have decided to hang it up and call it quits. But props to him for doing it. Oh, it looks like he's going to start too.
A couple of points in the AHL to get warmed up, which is nice.
Yeah, he's starting with Natchez, and I don't know who the other wing is, but they're putting him right into the mix.
Well, I imagine like if he wasn't ready to go at this level, he wouldn't be playing, right? So
yeah. Or this could also be we're on home ice and we're going to announce Gabriel Landeskog as a starter to just get our fans to blow the roof off the building. So
then he's benched and gets
correct. Yeah, plays like 3 shifts the rest of the period.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
hell yeah, Andrew, go Capitals. That's what I'm saying. Ovi gets another cup. He passes Crosby as the better player head to head. Just saying.
Yeah, my Montreal prediction's not looking the best at the moment, but
I was thinking about making again. I just don't have time to. I was thinking of like making a YouTube video, just being like, you know that like meme from Conor McGregor, like who the fuck is that guy? Like, who the fuck is this team? And then you look at it, and you're like, beast in Pratos, beast in Tom Wilson. And you go down the line, you're like, oh my God, like this team is a playoff team because all these big guys can score. And you're like going up against the speedy but smaller Canadians. And I'm like, man, like if the Capitals just absolutely like stomp the Canadians, then it's like, oh man, like they might actually be one of the teams to beat coming out of the East. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where they go. But I was looking up and down the roster. I'm like, man, I don't even know who half these players are. They drafted him in the 3rd round. Who is this guy? He got 60 or 40 points this year. Like, I think the Capitals, man, I know I'm like getting off the track here, but this is the playoff episode. Like, they're one of these teams that have quietly continued to develop players, like, despite making the playoffs over and over again.
Yeah, and like I was hanging out with one of my buddies today before this show, and we were just kind of talking about like I don't necessarily want to call them like reclamation projects, but like the Capitals have a lot of these guys that like other teams kind of like gave up on. Like for example, like Anthony Beauvillier, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Lars Eller, Strome, Mangiapane, Milano, like Taylor Radish. Like on the back end, Ethan Bear, Jacob Chikrin, like Matt Waugh, Rasmus Sandin.
Then you got guys like Martin Ferhervey, like second rounder, 20.
Yeah.
There's Ferravari starting. It's like what? Like, and he's played like he's been quietly just like playing well. And all right, good year this year. Like, yeah.
So it's like a lot of these, like it almost feels kind of like the Vegas expansion team, like the year they went to the Cup. It's like a lot of these players that were good, not great on their previous teams, but have just kind of come together just to form this like cohesive group. And I think to your point is I think there's a decent amount of depth here, right? Like there's, they got looks almost like 10-ish guys with 30 plus points this year. Like that's always some good depth to have. So,
and their defense is good too.
Yeah. They've played well. So, and Logan Thompson, had he not gotten hurt, for the good chunk of the season, I think would have been right in the mix with Connor Hellebuck as, an MVP and Vezina candidate. He still might, potentially, but like I mentioned when we were at the top of the show, like he made some huge saves to help Washington win tonight. So
yeah, it's just a big high scoring team. You like I said, Protas, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Tom Wilson, Ovi. It's just wow. They're gonna be tough to beat.
All right, well,
this is what happens when you stay up till 1 a.m. watching.
Seriously,
Wild.
We're gonna power through though. Couple other three more tidbits here. Ty Emberson, defenseman for the Oilers, gets an extension, 2 by 1.3 million AAV. Not a huge name, but a guy that I just like notably like stuck out to me in his games against the Wild. Like just kind of a fine depth defenseman, nothing too big there. Cool news today for Dean Evison, named the coach for Team Canada at the upcoming Men's World Hockey Championship. So that's pretty cool. Excited for Dino to get that opportunity. Super easy guy to root for. So really excited to kind of see that news.
Wonder whose clipboard he's gonna be punching as his assistant.
Right. And then this one, I think I'll let you speak to a little bit, but Jim Rutherford had his press conference. I think it was yesterday.
Yeah, let's go. Keep tampering, baby. We love it.
He was just running his mouth and basically like straight up said like, "Yep, Quinn wants to play with Jack and Luke. We don't have a lot of control over that unless they come here, but that could
we
be
have
here.
A lot of control over that.
Yeah, it's like could be here, could be New Jersey, but just kind of interesting and like what is
what this is my reaction is Jim Rutherford he knows the Vancouver market now and he's like, shit, we didn't make the playoffs, everyone's bummed because Besser's leaving. I gotta say something here for for the media to go on a frenzy and have something to cling on to Vancouver related as we're in the playoffs. That and if why wouldn't they try at this point? Like Besser's leaving, the Pettersson experiment, I don't even know if they can fucking move him at this point, but maybe this is their last swing to if we can get him out of here and somehow swing the Hughes brothers in return in a big
I just don't know what they have to give up to get both of them.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you can get Jack, you can cough up the rest of the assets, I think, for the other one. But
yeah, it'll be.
Look, it's not realistic. Do I believe that all three Hughes brothers will play for the Vancouver Canucks? No. I think Jim Rutherford knows the market and it was strategic, didn't just Do I think he planned to say that? 100%. Like before sitting down there, he was like, "I am gonna somehow find a way to slip this answer in."
Yeah, and I'd say it's possible that all three of them end up on the Olympic team. I mean, I think Jack and Luke will be there for sure. Jack and Quinn, and Luke could be like a seventh defenseman type of situation. But all right, and then finally here, Wild news. I think we brought this up last week, but official today that Danila Yurov released from his contract by Metallurg, set to head over to North America, likely to sign a contract probably in the next couple months here. And be ready to try to make the team out of training camp next year. So good news to kind of finally hear that, Metallurg let him go. But I believe the door is still open. Like they retain his rights basically where, for whatever reason, he doesn't make the Wild roster instead of playing the AHL, he could go back to the KHL if he wanted to. Wild legend Cal Clutterbuck today announced his retirement.
Love Cal Clutterbuck.
Yeah, was an absolute fan favorite here for a long time. Just one of probably
Power
the best.
Forward.
There's like hits were the name of his game, and he made a long career of being a fourth liner with Matt Martin and Casey Cizikas on the Islanders. Like that's got to be aside from probably like the perfection line in Boston, like in recent memory, that's like one of the most like permanent lines I can remember that just seemingly played together year in and year out and like never changed and was an identity line for them. And especially when they had those teams that were really good for a couple years there, they were a good playoff line and stuff like that. So excited for him. Wild legend for sure. Cal Clutterbuck.
Yeah. Fourth liner, did everything right and, could contribute offensively in a pinch as well, which was nice. Even like his last year, 20 points or 19 points, but 7 goals. He was always hovering around 20, 30 points his whole career, which was awesome.
Yeah. Which, for a fourth liner that hits, you can't ask for too much more than that. And then finally here, the Wild have recalled their Black Aces. So in addition to Jesper Wallstedt and Devin Shore, who are already up here, the Wild recalled Travis Boyd, Brendan Gaunce, Hunter Haight, Ben Jones, Liam Ogren, Cameron Crotty, Carson Lambos, and fourth-string goaltender Samuel Levi, I think is how you say it. So nothing too notable. Like none of these guys are likely drawing in anytime soon. If any of them, it's probably Liam Ogren if someone gets hurt only.
Yeah.
With Vinny Hinostroza waiting in the wings, they'd probably go to him first. More about that later. But yeah, so the Black Aces are here, but I wouldn't anticipate any of them playing unless for some unfortunate reason the Wild lose a bunch of guys to injury or something. So yeah,
I'm excited that Hunter Haight has developed this year. There's no way that they're putting him in. If it's not Ogren, it's the guys who it's gone sore, the guys who got to look already.
Yeah.
All right. Well, a quick question here before we continue on to the next segment, because Hoptic says, realistically, what can we get for Rossi? Because it's pretty much well known now, especially with this fourth line demotion in Game 2, which they won, that he might, or he's probably not going to be with the Wild moving forward. Is he worth a swap with another really good center? Would something need to be included with Rossi to get something in return that will help us immediate? I think there's a lot of options, Brett, because he still hasn't reached the ceiling. He's still super young. He played he fits in with the National Hockey League. Yes, could he be a little tougher and maybe earn Heinz respect, in that way? Sure. But I think that there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this on last week's show, is that if the Wild do end up trading Marco Rossi, it's not like it's a sell low situation. Now, I think they could be shooting themselves in the foot a little bit with his trade value by sticking him on the fourth line right now. If you got that 60 point, I think that's about what he was this year in the regular season, is all of a sudden in your fourth line, that's probably a little bit of a red flag to other GMs. So I think they need to be careful with, I know it worked yesterday, and to the management and coach credit, he didn't have a great game 1, and I didn't think he was particularly noticeable honestly, in game 2 either. But
I don't with how good he's played to this point, it's and I'm not just saying this season, since coming into the NHL, it's these are hockey guys. Sure. There's still a level of old school, you don't do what I want, or we're not on the same page, you ain't getting the minutes. And I really don't think at the end of the day that's gonna affect him too much. Now, is a GM going to use that in the argument and trade? Sure, that's what That's what trade conversations are. But like at the end of the day, I think Billy Guerin will, and the rest of the guys in that room will just be, I cut the bullshit, dude. Like, this doesn't really mean anything. It's just he's not a good fit here and under the coach that we're going forward with. And like, I think they can talk their way out of it, I guess.
And I think too, that it's also Rossi's first playoff series. Like we saw Boldy struggle in his first year, saw slight improvements last year, and now we'll talk about Boldy later in the show, but just like he's obviously like looking really comfortable now. Like it takes time. Like he's still a young player, and like I think one name I'm kind of eyeing, I think the Sabres have always kind of liked Marco Rossi, so I wonder, maybe not a center, but I could potentially play a little bit of center, but maybe an upgrade on your wing would be JJ Peterka for the Buffalo Sabres. Russo's thrown out that the Wild, he's a player that they like, and I think that's more the kind of trade I think that you're doing for Marco Rossi. Like you're getting a player similar age. Like, do you maybe have to throw in, a pick or something? Sure, but as we've talked about, like the Wild are in a place where it makes sense to move picks now. So he was second on the Sabres in scoring this year, 27 goals, 41 assists, 68 points. So like definitely could be a great addition to your top six if that's a potential trade they're able to swing. Like that's the one I'm more open to in that situation. So
yeah, it was far from a convincing win, first of all. And sure, I think Ogren's ready for the NHL. I think we're freaking out a little bit over 2 games, and one of the games where he got I want to say the least amount of minutes that he's gotten in a long time, right? It's like,
and for all we know, like
a different animal too. And it's like, okay, this is the next step up. I mean, oh wow, it took a couple years for everyone to stop bitching about Boldy in the playoffs because he's performing now. Like, and I'm not, and I guess it seems like I'm always the Rossi defender. I have no issue with with what Hines is doing right now.
Yeah, I literally said in my player card analysis after game 1 that I'm like, it's fairly likely that Ryan Hartman's going to get elevated next game, like the way he played, like 45 seconds with Kaprizov and Boldy, and they scored 2 goals in those 45 seconds. And he was, I believe, the primary assist on both of those, or for sure one of them. And we've talked about, I think, this a little bit too, like Rossi's been playing through injuries. Like we don't know if one of those has gotten worse. Like there's a lot we don't know. And
I just think that like 2 games isn't going to affect a team biting on him at all. Like in the grand scheme of things, like at all. So my argument is, and my personal message to the fans is, don't be worried about it at all. Like if they don't get a good return, it's not because of how they managed his game 1 and game 2, and maybe even this series. It's because the GM fucked up, like, and just didn't do his job properly. That's where I'm pretty much firmly on it.
Yeah.
Do I have an issue at the end of the day if they got to move on with him, given what they have coming up, and there's replaceable spots. I'm a fan of the player, but whatever. I'll move on like I did with Kuznetsov. It's just still kind of a meme that it's the center that the Wild draft, and because he's not a superstar right away in 2 years, out of here.
Yeah, like I've always said, like my reaction to moving Rossi will always just hinge on who is replacing him.
Oh yeah, 100%.
To assess if I'm angry. Like I said, I think I've said if they replace him with Brock Nelson, I'm going to be furious. If they're able to replace him with like a JJ Peterka, or even if that's being able to spend more money on Brock Besser, like those are things that I'm open to. So
yeah.
All right, analytics.
All right, let's get it. And I actually have our transition video, so let's get to it.
Let's go. Ooh, fancy little music there. A little bit of a change. So yes, for our analytics agenda this week, we're going to talk about this Minnesota Wild top line of Eriksson, Kaprizov, and Matt Boldy. These 3 have been getting it done. Analytically, the profiles look great. I mean, the eye test has told you, like, obviously it's pretty much where all the Wild offenses come from so far.
The Boldy show.
Yes, at 5-on-5. The score is even 1-1, but as I mentioned earlier, that there is that 45 seconds where Ryan Hartman popped onto the line, and they scored twice. Expected goals, they're controlling 62.4%, 1.1 to 0.66. Shots 12-13, but controlling the high danger chances 3-1. The scoring chances really pop here, 22-8. on the scoring chances with the top line out there on the ice, and they're out attempting opponents 46 to 39s to 54% Corsi share. This line is looking much like the way they were at the end of last season. And like Joel Eriksson Ek maybe like hasn't been on the score sheet as much, but he's been such a huge part of this. His numbers are on the screen here. So this speaks specifically to him, but also for the first line in general. Like the most of their minutes have been against Pietrangelo, Stone, Theodore, McNabb, Eichel, Hanifin, Barbashev, like the Vegas' top guns. And these are the numbers they've put up, 62% expected goal share, 22-8 scoring chance advantage. I do not believe Jack Eichel has a point in the playoffs yet. Stone might not either. Like they've really, really shut that line down. They made Shea Theodore look an absolute idiot last night. He was a -4. And that wasn't just top line. That was everybody. But, I think we talked, and I can't remember if it was on this show or if it was when I was jumping on with Spokesy and Hoppy about just like what players need to step up for this to be a series. And I think it was you and me, because I brought up Boldy, like if he can be kind of that secondary threat, alongside Kaprizov, and sure enough, those two have he's
the first threat at this point. Like 3 goals already, 4 points. Kaprizov with the 5 points, but let's be honest, Boldy's chances that he capitalized on were a little bit better so far.
I think he scored on his first 3 shots. I think he had 2 goals and 2 shots in game 1, and then scores really early on in game 2. But yeah, I mean, it's awesome. You have Kaprizov just slinging passes like tape to tape, like with absolute sorcery. The saucer pass in the Boldy goal last night was, as Boldy pointed, like to quote Boldy, like one of the best passes I've ever seen. Like it's just really encouraging to see this top line playing well, because they've shown they can go up with the best lines in the league. And I think we saw it a little bit more last game with Hartman, Foligno, and Nyquist finally opening up some opportunities for offense. But we're seeing what happens when you have a couple scoring lines that can start to be a threat. This team can start to pile up the goals and win games, and they've done that so far.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's been a fun series. And that last game though, man, like it was just like the Wild played night and day. It's like when they were playing well, they dominated, and when they weren't, it was like the floor collapsed. Like they were lost. They weren't able to get any shots off, and Vegas was doing everything right. And it went from like 40 seconds of offensive zone control time to like 50 seconds in the second period, and then 2 minutes, 5-on-5. It was wild. It was wild. Not weird.
Yeah, like last night's a really interesting game. Like when you look at analytics, like it looks on paper kind of like Vegas dominated, and like even if you look at the Wild's goal, like all the Wild's goal, like I think all 4 of them off the rush, because they had the Boldy breakaway. Kaprizov was a rush the other way. The
Zuccarello's
was a rush, and then I try to remember the Foligno one.
Foligno was so he like laid a hit at the blue line, got it to like
that
right
one
corner,
was,
and then he tipped it in.
Yeah, so that one I would attribute to like a forecheck, but like typically throughout the season, the Wild are more of a score off sustained pressure forecheck type, and not as much off the rush. And we saw them at 3 of their 4 goals last night coming off the rush, forcing some turnovers, making like, and it was all great pressure, right? Like we saw turnovers, to your point, like Foligno had the hit. Like that's the kind of stuff they need to do. And I think, you look at the Wild, they get up 4-0, and then it's like the game kind of spiraled from there. But I think at that point, like I always say, once you get a lead, like don't sit back and defend. But by 4 goals, that's what you can do, is sit back and defend. And I think for the most part, they did a good job of, Vegas had a lot of attempts, but only in the end of the game with, I think, like 70 some shot attempts, but I think only like 10 high danger chances. So, oh my God.
What?
The goal that Val Nichushkin just scored was disgusting.
And look, I don't think it was just like right after Minnesota scored like the 4th that they just like the wheels fell off.
Early on, they were looking a little rough too.
Yeah, no, that was it. It was like the first like 5 minutes of the game. It was like, oh boy, like Vegas is looking really good. And then the Wild took over for the rest of the period. Then the Wild scored early in the second, looked good for most of the second. Vegas scores, and it's kind of back and forth, kind of like we saw in the first game. And then something happened, and it was just a different team. It was a different team. That's what I'm saying. Like they definitely had enough runway to come away with the win, thank God. But if that was a close game, man, like the whole time, like Vegas is coming back, coming back. They score a second one. I was like, oh no, like this is not good. But put it this way, if Gustafson continues to play that well,
yeah, and I think
okay.
like
we're okay.
Yeah, and I think like the awesome thing I think about Gus is we talked about how this could like end up being somewhat of a goalie duel between Aiden Hill and Philip Gustafson. Like I think especially true last night, to your point, especially early on in the game, like he made the big saves when they needed it.
And Hill didn't. Hill let 3 in on 5 shots, which Hill played still a really good game. But it was kind of like Hill played like Gustafson in game 1. Gustafson played like Hill in, game 2, right? It was like they both are really good, but there was a couple cracks that the Wild were able to capitalize on. And, it was kind of the same thing in game 1 where there was like a couple cracks where the Knights were able to capitalize on Gustafson.
Yeah. But I mean, if Gus can keep doing this, like, pretty much doing his job, he has 0.29 goal save above expected as of this moment, according to Evolving Hockey. So like a little bit more than he's been expected to do. But I think, we've always said if the Wild get average goaltending and average special teams, they're good enough at 5-on-5 to win a lot of games. Now, that's mostly true here. They're getting really good 5-on-5 play, getting really good goaltending. Special teams is
we're just not going to get special teams because the refs ain't calling shit.
There's been 4 total penalties called.
Could you imagine Vancouver's 2011 team in this playoffs? They'd be fucked. They'd have no power play. Like their whole thing was draw the power play, put the Sedins out there, Kessler will score, or Burrows will score.
Yeah, but just like 4 minutes and 46 seconds, I believe, is the total time that these two teams have played not 5-on-5. Like that's pretty remarkable through 2 games in the playoffs. But there's definitely been some missed calls. There was a punch to Kaprizov's face, the slew foot on Ek that didn't go on, that went uncalled. But the Wild's penalty killed. Game 1 it cost them the game. Ultimately, they lose by a goal, and it's because Vegas gets a power play, wins the faceoff, and scores almost immediately off that faceoff. And then the only other penalty kill they had was late in the game when they pulled the goalie, so it ended up being 5-on-5. So that didn't.
I'll say this though: I'd rather the refs call nothing than call too much or just like whatever they're feeling like. It's like it seems like it. They're like it's pretty even all around in that they're missing calls on everybody, and it's like games haven't gotten out of hand yet where the players are like we're running the show. So like it's been good playoff hockey so far around the league.
Yeah, and I think like Wild and Vegas, like there's been some missed calls, but to your point, it's been both ways for sure. But they've been physical, but they've like I think for the most part felt pretty clean outside of a little skirmish here or there. But
dude, Zuccarello's gonna leave his feet one of these hits, man. He's like when he's going for it, I'm like, oh god, dude. Like I always think I'm like, who is that? I'm like, oh my god, Zuccarello. Like what? Yeah. Dude, props to him though. He's just living up right now. He's like, he should not be playing like this physical. And he's like, I swear him and Foligno have like a bet going on where it's like, okay, you can dish out 3 hits this shift, I can do 4. And like go out there because like, dude, he's looking like a bowling ball out there as well, except he's bouncing off the pins, not knocking them over.
Yeah, and like I think if you're the Wild, like you're loving the fact that you're playing 5-on-5 because I think we talked about this coming in as like I was confident they could stick with this Vegas team at 5-on-5, just given what we saw out of this team when they were healthy. But you look at the power play, like they've had 2 opportunities, they don't have a shot on goal. On those 2 opportunities that they've had, and their penalty kill is essentially 0 for 1. So like if you're the Wild, like well, our special teams suck, but we can win a 5-on-5. So if you don't want to call penalties, like sure, we'll take it. It'll work for us.
Yeah, no, for sure. All right, last segment here, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to Puck Your Opinion.
I just want to say, Puck Your Opinion.
So a couple hot topics going through Twitter today. So we'll discuss them here, give my full thoughts, get your full thoughts. The first one, which I think has been the hottest topic today, the Wild's third pair, Zeev Buium, Zach Bogosian, on the ice for a goal in game 1, goal for, and a goal against. And then Zeev Buium, obviously, the turnover that led to the goal, the empty net goal with whatever, like a 1/10 of a second left or less than a 1/10 of a second in the game. And then they're -2 again last night. So a little bit of a rough go for them. We're excited to see Buium gets in there, but at this point, I think it's fair to question, like a lot of people say, oh, you won the game, don't make adjustments. But to your point, that wasn't a game they dominated start to finish where you can, that recipe probably doesn't work if you play that same game again.
Yeah, and it's just like they just aren't. I don't know. They're not a pair that's clicking really. I understand that they wanted to put more of a stay-at-home, bigger guy with the guy who can move the puck. But I mean, there were times where, for better or for worse, because it kind of took Bogosian out of position sometimes. Like he went to just like help Zeev and help bail him out, and in opportunities where it's kind of like, well, he has to win that battle, and if you leave your position, then now there's open ice, and that's where Vegas was able to just keep position at times. And like, are we seeing moments with Zeev? Sure, but like, he's still a little, I guess, trigger shy to make some of these passes, or he'll overpass, or do a little too much right now. And like, I get it. You're gonna do what you were doing in college, because I mean the coaches don't know much more about you either. They're like, right, get in there, do your thing, right? Like, because you haven't even been in our systems long enough to know, some of the intricate things that we do, other than the basics, or what you've been doing to bring you success. So I don't know if it benefits the lineup bringing in one of the two other guys alongside Z, because are they going to play that stay-at-home game as good as Bogosian? Well, maybe,
and they're both lefties.
Yeah, and they're both lefties. That's huge. I mean, but they both. Well, I know Merrill's played on his offside, right?
Yeah, and Chisholm had, I think, a little bit this year as well.
I guess the thing is, like, could it be any worse right now, right, or do you bring in one of the other two with Bogosian because you've seen it already this season, and in some cases it's worked, right?
Yeah,
this is the playoffs now. This isn't develop Zeev Buium right now. Time in the NHL right now. He's lucky to be here. The Wild have him as an extra tool. Winning is the priority, and he's not helping the team win right now. So,
yeah.
Watch him bench them both, and just fuck it. We'll put Chisholm and Maryland.
Yeah, and like I don't think they've been like horrifically bad. Like the mistakes have been magnified a little bit here and there, but
no, it hasn't been horrific. But like they haven't played a lot of minutes, and they haven't been that great out there. So it's just like, yeah, okay, in the moments where we have to rest the big guys, like you got to at least hold the fort.
Weird. Natural Stat doesn't have Buium's numbers in their system at current, so I can't look what the numbers are, but they're not great. But like, I think Buium's going to have a really long, good career. I think it's easy to forget that he's not even 20 years old yet, and very, very few defensemen enter the league prior to age 21, and 21 even, let alone 20, and are successful. And like you said, I think we've seen some flashes of time, but I think we've seen like at times where maybe there's some timidness and feeling like he has to pass when he could have shoot, and being out of position and losing guys in the speed. Like, it's not easy to come out of college under 20 years old on a pair with Zach Bogosian on the road in Vegas in the playoffs as your introduction to the NHL. Like, that's a pretty tall order. So I wouldn't be
like these guys coming after you in the corners that you have to win these battles against. Right. These aren't college players. These are These are the best in the world, and Vegas is one of the best teams. And you could just see it. It's like, oh man, that is a boy, that is a man. Like,
yeah. So I would not be surprised if John Merrill. I would prefer it to be Chisholm, but I know it'll be Merrill because for whatever reason they like to go Merrill when it's a third pair guy, and Chisholm when it's a top four guy. So Merrill, I think, probably draws in. Like, I would, if it were up to me, to your point, like, I think I'd bring in both Merrill and Chisholm and just sit those other two guys, because I do not think Bogosian has been good. Like, where Buium, it's at least he's trying to make plays. Bogosian just looks like a traffic cone to me, and like I constantly all year have just been frustrated. Like, I think I get so used to watching Spurgeon and Faber Brody, these guys that can carry the puck and make a breakout pass. Zach Bogosian gets the puck and just flips it out of the zone or chips it off the glass, and just extends his line mate shift by not possessing the puck at all. So if it were up to me, I'd replace both of them, but my gut says that we'll see Buium swapped out for Merrill. And I think like the one thing that could have been Buium's saving grace, if the Wild's power plays had been generating at least some looks and some momentum, I could see it, but I believe they have.
When he was out there were no looks. Like when the second pairing came out and Spurgeon was moving the puck, it was just like, it was almost like you could sigh, like, okay, like this is like there was an air of comfortability, even though they weren't able to set up much. It was like we weren't on the edge of our seat being like, there's something off here. There's something off here.
Yeah. So I wouldn't even go as far to say as I think he'll be on the bench for the rest of the series. It could just be like a 1 game reset. Like, hey, there's a lot. Let's get a couple more practices under the belt. We're going to throw Johnny in there, and then maybe it's a home debut on Saturday night or something like that. So who knows? But
having depth is a good problem to have. So
yeah, like I want this to be me saying I think Zeev Buium has played horribly. I just think he's looked like a 19-year-old college kid who's been thrown into the playoffs as his first career game.
I should have made the thumbnail bust to get the clicks. Zeev Buium is a bust.
Yeah, and then the other big topic, and we talked a little bit about Marco Rossi in the show and his demotions and that kind of stuff, but just kind of what do you make of, like, do you think the demotion was first warranted, and like what do you think should happen with kind of Rossi going forward, knowing that, you know, the Wild didn't necessarily dominate, so there still could be lineup tweaks, and I don't think his line, whether or not it was all on him or if it was more on Trenton or Brazeau, didn't look great last night. But
I mean, we've seen this before. Like, you put Rossi with players who can play, and he's like, he will contribute in getting offense, right? When you put him with guys who are just those two guys in particular, it's like that's not his game, right? So he kind of just has to like do basic shit until his next shift, because he can't do everything by himself in the offensive zone. He's kind of had to, and he's getting beat. So whether it's warranted or not, like, sure, like, you want to get better, you want to get out of the looks as a coach, like, and I just said it a few moments ago, you have depth. Hartman has played as high on the top line and as low on the fourth line. If you can mix things up and get offense and squeeze good matchups in this series, like, you're gonna do it. So like, I don't mind it. It's just like that extra layer of like, it's also like a reason because like he's just not the guy and we're moving on from him, that it's like, I don't think he'll be pinned there if suddenly like offense dries up in a game in this series, or, you know, knock on wood, they get to the second round. If they need other offense, like, they'll probably mix him into the equation again because he had success this year. But like, if this is working right now, they'll keep him there, and, you know, it's not worth benching him because like if you can't get some offense to that fourth line. But I just think like it's like shutdown line against shutdown line, or Vegas, you know, they have depth in their lineup as well, and just Trenton's been physical, Brazeau's been kind of invisible, and so I feel like Rossi is forced to like just do everything by himself, and he's just getting beat. Yeah,
so like I've seen, like, I talked to a couple people. Pat Micheletti actually, you know, tweeted out something on the lines of, you know, could you potentially look at moving Rossi to the wing? And I liked that proposal, just getting him into different situations. The other thing that I think would potentially make some sense is, I know it went from the third line to the fourth line, but you know, maybe you look at, you know, a swap with him and Freddie Gaudreau, who I don't think has looked particularly good. Lost some key faceoffs in game one. Ultimately, that one on the penalty kill led to a goal. And then I just, you know, outside of kind of the one rush that, you know, was his line mates, Zuccarello and Johansson, like, that line hasn't done a ton for me yet.
I think he's been fine. I think his task has been like, when the puck is on the wall, you're battling for it. And I think they've leaned on Zuccarello and Johansson is like, you guys are the offensive guys. That guy's going in there and doing all the dirty work, because he hasn't even like parked himself in front of the net at all either. Like Johansson has, right?
Yeah. But I just wonder if maybe a swap there makes some sense. Like, hey, let Freddie lean into the defensive game a little bit. We know that's his sweet spot. Let's see if Rossi and Zuccarello, you know, and then, you know, Johansson, you know, obviously his offense kind of even lingering in the playoffs here. I think 1 or 2 points for him through these first couple of games. Let that line be a little bit more offensive. And I think, to your point in the chat right here, I agree. I thought Nyquist did look good last night. That line with Hartman and Foligno, I think, had some really good shifts and is doing a really good job of.
Nyquist had some good shots too. Like, he just, I think with a little, with some puck luck, he probably would have scored.
And he's one of those players too, and I think, you know, almost like a Jared Spurgeon type, where he makes a lot of really subtle plays that you don't always notice, but like little stick lifts here, good positioning here to like cut off a passing lane. So I think there's little details in his game that I've liked too. Like, I don't think he's been like a huge factor in either of their wins, but I don't think he's been a guy that I've been like, oh my gosh, like Nyquist looked terrible on this. Oh my gosh, Nyquist turned the puck over. So, yeah.
What else we got?
Hinostroza. To your point, I think Brazeau's been a little bit invisible for me. Like, he's played a little bit physical, but, you know, as you look to just continue to make tweaks and adjustments, like, I think, the teams that win in the playoffs like have a proactive coach versus a reactive coach. And, I almost wonder if Hines looks to maybe get a little bit of speed in here with Hinostroza. And
it's almost like they had a speedy Russian who plays with an edge a little bit ago. Weird. Just saying.
Yeah. Well, no, you're not wrong.
Would have been fun to watch him in the playoffs.
Yeah. So what do you think? Do you think Hinostroza back in the lineup?
I would like to see Hinostroza in the lineup. I think everybody else is making up for the physicality that Brazo's kind of a non-factor when Zuccarello is getting more hits than you are.
Yeah, when you got Foligno throwing out 23 of 50 plus, like I don't think Brazo's 8 minutes of 2 hits is making that much of a difference. So.
The Kaprizov's throwing the body around as well. Like that's what I mean. Like everybody else is making up for the physicality. That's your job. You're not really doing it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm all right with bringing in some speed and maybe some more scoring, some depth scoring.
Yeah, for sure. So
like if they were playing Winnipeg, just stock the cupboard with the big boys and go. But like with this type of team, it's like no, you need that firepower. You need everyone. You can't just like on the night where Boldy just gets shut down. You need other opportunities. You need other looks.
Yeah, for sure. So I'd like
Brazo ain't giving you that look.
Yeah. I'd like to see him back in that one. I'm not as confident. I am I think 99% sure that John Merrill will be in and Zeev Boom will be out for tomorrow night. The only other thing, like we talked a little bit briefly, the power play, we talked about Bouillon, but 2 power plays now, just 5 total attempts. 0 of those have gotten on goal, 0.02 expected goals. And bad. I believe they actually have a shot against. They have a shorthanded shot. So actually losing the shot battle. And this is a reminder that Vegas had the 26th worst penalty kill in the NHL during the regular season. So I'm a little worried. Like it's so weird that like Kaprizov and Boldy at 5-on-5 can just be like, yep, we're going to pass the puck all over you. And then it gets to the power play.
Dude, it's their entries. I swear. It's just like, and again, easier said than done me watching from like my chair. But the fact that I'm noticing it a lot now, it's like you're on the power play. Why are you dumping and chasing every single time? It's like, again, easier said than done to make that perfect play coming into the zone. But every single time, it's like it's default because maybe they have been struggling with some of their fancier zone entries or like some of their plays that they want to run. And so like, okay, if we can get there and set up, then sweet. But they ain't getting there. And they've had no opportunity to set up. And it's just like they're constantly chasing the puck back down. Friggin' Gustafson's getting more of a workout than these guys trying to retrieve it to get it up quick for them. It's, Zeev had that one bolt where he came in and tried to make something happen, but was a little ahead of the play there. And then, Spurgeon was able to bring it through a little bit more clean and avoided dumping and chasing it. But like, man, they get held up just a little bit in the neutral zone, and it's like we're not even going to reset. We're just going to toss it in there and then skate backwards.
Yeah, nothing drives me more insane than dump and chase on the power play. It's like just like at that point, just shoot the puck back into your own zone. That's what's going to happen anyway. Like at least regroup under your own power,
save some seconds, and yeah.
So
I don't know. So that's been frustrating.
Yeah, for sure. So that's pretty much all I had. Vegas, like I said, just the 46 seconds of power play time. They've scored once so far. So special teams, I think, still have the potential to be a big story. But, again, I want to say they switched the officiating crews like every 2 games. Mm-hmm. So maybe now with the new officiating crew, we see that change. And, maybe the players take too many liberties. We'll see. But ideal world for me, I think, like I mentioned earlier, is for the series to stay at 5-on-5 because I like our chances better than if we get into a shootout on special teams. But really looking forward to tomorrow and just seeing what the Wild's response is and seeing if they can put the pressure on by going up 2-1.
Yeah, like we said, they have the tools to win this series. We saw it in game 1, which I think they played a bet. Despite, it's weird to say, despite losing overall, I think they played a better game 1. But game 2, they found their scoring touch a little bit more, and Boldy was just on fire.
I agree 100%.
If they could put it all together in game 3, like this is like Vegas is going to be like, oh shit, like we gotta like regroup and kind of make some adjustments for game 4. So like every game's an important one. But like this is big coming home and making a statement in St. Paul.
Yeah, it's always good when you can put the advantage, winning one of those first two on the road as the road team, being able to do that and being able to now have the potential to take advantage now of your home ice, potentially go back as good as 3-1. So the big thing is like this, you want to lose both and then go back down 3-1. But I don't see that happening. I thought this was going to be a 6 or 7 game series from the jump, and it's really looking like it's going to shape up to be that way.
Absolutely. And yes, Trav, I will be live tomorrow for the game, and then Hoppy will be live on Saturday covering the game because I'll be covering UFC stuff on the City Life Project. And yeah, Brett, as always, you're always welcome to join intermissions. We had Hoppy and Dev from 10K Takes join last night, which he's an hour ahead of us. He was like, he had a mountain of beer cans, and he was like, boys, for me, it started at 11:20. And I was like, oh man, that's
yeah, the people that were like the East Coast Wild fans last night, bless. Thank you for your dedication. But thankfully tomorrow a little bit better, 8 p.m.
I had friends even out west who was like, I'm gonna go to bed for this one too. I'm like, geez.
Yeah, it's a tough one for sure. But 8 p.m. tomorrow, and then I think it's a pretty like a 3 or 4 p.m. start, I think, on Saturday. So a little bit better these next couple days. But I think there's a lot to like from the first 2 games, but I think there's still things that can improve. And Vegas is going to come out hungry. Eichel and Stone are fiending, and it's going to be pretty much impossible to keep those guys off the score sheet for a whole series. So I'm just looking forward to how the Wild respond and how they now use the matchups to their advantage. If they look to pull the Kaprizov line away from the Eichel line, or if they look to continue to attack them because they have dominated those minutes so far.
And Vegas hasn't really taken a break at all. Like they had a little bit of a moment, I'd say like 4 to 5 minutes in that second period last night where it looked like they were defeated, but that was it. So for the most part, like they don't fold. They're gonna keep coming. But anyways, guys, check out my second channel as always, the City Life Project. I just posted a new video. It is a regional highlight package, some of the best regional knockouts, from the regional scene around the world. We got some beer reviews, some vlogs when I was back home, and just a bunch of other stuff as well. If you dig the Minnesota Wild watch parties and you like combat sports, I literally do the same thing on this channel, covering literally everything. Brett, you still got player cards coming out, I see?
Yeah, so they're going to be, I think, probably for the most part, just given the late nature of the games and stuff like that. They'll be next day, but I've been getting those up.
Oh, come on. I was waiting until 3 a.m. yesterday for it.
Yeah. Trying to get them up relatively like 9, 10 a.m., but plan to continue those throughout the playoffs. So, I think things have overall, I think to your point, I think like analytically, things look a little bit better after game 1. Obviously, the result is what we wanted in game 2. So, like you said, if they can pull that all together, that'd be pretty sweet. So
absolutely. Hey, so far so good. Fun series. Nothing's really been one-sided, which again, from a Wild fan perspective, you're like, well, I wish it was one-sided for us, but like, these are the games where when the Wild get past Vegas, we'll be like, oh man, that was such a sick series because of these moments. It was a hard-fought series and things like that, right? Like I don't remember as much as a Canucks fan from the Sharks series. I remember slaying the Dragon, against the Blackhawks, right? And then in Tim Thomas being basically the Freddy Krueger of my nightmares. But anyways, fucking Tim Thomas. And that's it for the show, guys. Like and subscribe. Brett, last word goes to you.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be still talking about a series or a series completion by next Wednesday, because I don't think we have a game 5. We don't know when that'll be quite yet, but hoping that the next time that we're talking to you guys, it's hopefully positive. So a lot could change the next week, so we'll have to wait and see.
Hell yeah. See you guys next week.
Later.